All right, guys, Sam's Club grocery haul video. Thanks for coming along with me. Meat first. I hear they've actually got grass-fed burgers here. So, yep, look at this. Grass-fed beef burgers at Sam's Club. 100% grass-fed beef. 80-20. I like the fattiest burgers I can get. They just taste better that way. These are $4.80 a pound, less than $5 a pound for grass-fed beef. It's amazing. So when I look at stuff that's grass-fed, I'm always thinking, is it 100% grass-fed? Some manufacturers are writing grass-fed on their burgers now, or grass-fed on their meat, but we don't know if it's fully grass-fed from the beginning of its life to the end of its life. What we want is meat that's fully grass-fed, 100% grass-fed, and not finished on grains. That's better. I mean, it's not the end of the world to eat grain-finished meat. I just prefer 100% grass-fed beef, no preservatives. I can look at the label, only ingredient, grass-fed beef on the label. I love that when you buy a burger or something, there's only one ingredient. Look at that in distinction with something like this, Beyond Meat plant-based patties. They try to pretend there's protein in there, 20 grams of plant protein, but we know that that plant protein is not nearly as bioavailable as the protein in animal foods. That protein in grass-fed beef is really twice as available when we do studies as this plant protein. So that 20 grams of protein in plant-based protein is less than probably 10 grams of actual real usable protein by the human body. And look, even on the plant-based meats, they're advertising no soy and no gluten. This like plant-based movement, look, I love vegans. I think their intention is great, but the plant-based movement is collapsing from the inside. They're realizing things like soy and gluten are horrible, and they're trying to advertise, we're plant-based, but we don't even contain soy and gluten, which is crazy when you think about how many plant-based foods do contain soy and gluten. I was at another grocery store here in Austin the other day, and I got this ingredient list of a Korean barbecue ribs that were plant-based. There were 95 things on this ingredient list. But look at this. Remember, one ingredient on the beef, look at how many ingredients on the plant-based burgers, including seed oils like canola oil and a bunch of synthetic fake vitamins so that they can actually make the nutrition label look like it stacks up to that single ingredient of beef. Crazy. If you're at Sam's Club and you're on a budget, you can get even cheaper meat. I'm gonna get the grass-fed beef, but look at this. You can get 80% lean Angus beef patties here for $3.67 a pound. So that's even cheaper than the grass-fed beef. I think it's worth the extra $1 for the grass-fed beef. Let's go get some cheese. I think it's pretty cool that even at these big stores like Sam's Club or Costco, you can get raw cheese. This is Parmigiano Reggiano cheese. If it says Parmigiano Reggiano, it's a raw cheese. It's a really high quality cheese. I'm gonna buy that. Cheese made from pasteurized milk is okay, but I'm a fan of raw milk, raw cheese, raw dairy in general. Raw milk has been shown consistently to be associated with lower rates of asthma, eczema, allergies in kids compared to pasteurized milk. So I think there's probably a protective role for the whey protein in raw dairy, and I try and eat as much of my dairy raw as I can. I like sheep cheese like Manchego, but you can just see on the label, it'll say pasteurized sheep's milk, and when something is raw, it'll say raw milk. So you can just read the label of your cheese and know if it's pasteurized or raw. The only one here that's raw is that Parmigiano Reggiano. That one has to be raw to be called Parmigiano Reggiano. And as you're shopping in dairy, looking at things that are thick like creams, you gotta read the labels. You can see this is a Mexican style cream, but on the label, it contains carrageenan. That's a problem. That's a long polysaccharide derived from algae that we know is irritating for the gut. Both animal and human models show that. So I avoid anything with carrageenan. Again, things that are trying to be thick, potentially Greek yogurts, creamers, that kind of stuff, might have carrageenan hiding in it, so you gotta read the label. I'm gonna get some pickles. Yes, pickles can be animal-based. Cucumbers are a fruit, and they're fermented, so that's gonna get rid of any of the defense chemicals in there. Now, these pickles contain garlic. If you've got gut issues, they might irritate your gut, but I'm not gonna eat the garlic in here. It's mostly just in here in whole garlic cubes to flavor it, so I'm gonna go a little wild today, get some pickles and, enjoy it. Here we got the chicken. Again, I'm not gonna go for this chicken because chickens are fed corn and soy. They kind of accumulate that linoleic acid in their fat. And I think if I have a choice and I can get grass-fed beef, that's gonna be the highest quality meat in this store. I'm just gonna go with that grass-fed beef. But if you wanna eat chicken, okay, I wouldn't make it the only type of meat in your diet. It's not my favorite, but it's not bad. It's still an animal-based food, isn't gonna contain defense chemicals like vegetables. The same can be said for fish. Let's go talk about fish. I don't eat a lot of fish for a lot of reasons. In general, fish is gonna be much higher in PFAs, forever chemicals, microplastics, heavy metals, depending on the source. Bigger fish like tuna, more heavy metals. Even salmon, you gotta be careful with. So if you're looking for salmon, you wanna make sure it's a Pacific wild salmon. Anything that says Atlantic salmon is a farm-raised salmon and is gonna have coloring in it. Let's look at this sockeye salmon. Here it is, wild caught, Gulf of Alaska. That's gonna be a better option if you want salmon. Antibiotic-free Atlantic salmon, farm-raised. And most of the time in the ingredients on these, you'll see that they have to add color to them because it's not actually this color. It's a much lighter color unless they add coloring when it's a farm-raised salmon. So you can see here on the back, salmon color is added in the feed. That doesn't sound too appetizing to me. So also at Sam's Club, you've got grass-fed ground beef, not made into patties. This is $4.98 a pound, so it's still pretty darn affordable. And I got frozen patties, but they've got 2 different sources of grass-fed beef here. This one even is labeled as USDA organic. And I've always got to talk about it when they have it because it's just hilarious. The meat rocket sausage. Every time I see one of these, I want to buy it just for the sake of what it is. It's just a very affordable way to get meat. This is $3.68 a pound. Again, I prefer grass-fed because meat is raised better. It's more humanely raised. The meat is probably a little more nutritious because it's had the grass its whole life, and it's going to have less pesticides, less contaminants because it's not eating grain in a clustered feeding operation, a factory farm at the end of its life. But if you're on a budget, I mean, you should just buy this for the sake of buying this amazing tube of meat. Meat rocket sausage, just like blast off. So one of the things about Sam's Club that I've learned is that they don't have a lot in terms of organic fruit, which is kind of a bummer. But if I'm in a pinch and this is all I have access to, I might get some non-organic avocados. They've got the skin on them. I might get some non-organic bananas. I might even get some non-organic citrus like oranges or something. But in this Sam's Club, they have a little bit of organic produce in the refrigerated section. Like I said, maybe some oranges. There's a watermelon there. I'd probably get that non-organic if I were in a pinch. Let's go check out the refrigerated fruit. I would not buy conventional non-organic grapes. I would not buy conventional non-organic blackberries, raspberries, cherries. A lot of pesticides on these. I would avoid these unless they're organic. You got conventional blackberries here, skip those in my opinion. You got organic raspberries. That's not a bad option. Raspberries are one of these fruits that's kind of weird. They're mildly high in oxalates. So if you have an oxalate issue, oxalates are connected with kidney stones. We know that oxalates form the major kidney stone in humans, calcium oxalates. It's all the little seeds in the raspberries that are the problem. So strawberries, these are not as big an issue when it comes to oxalates. They have organic strawberries. So at this Sam's Club, this is probably the best option when it comes to fruit. And over here, we've got some delicious spinach, which I'm gonna get. No, I'm not gonna get this. This is just an oxalate bomb. Look at this, guys. A huge 2.5 pound bag of spinach. There's a lot of oxalates in here. If you cooked and ate all of this, you might even give yourself a kidney stone. If you don't believe me, we can put some research on the screen. Oxalates, very high in spinach. Even though you won't absorb all of the oxalates in spinach, there's so many oxalates in spinach. Close to 700 milligrams, give or take, of oxalates in 1 cup of spinach. Even if you only absorb 10% of that oxalates in 1 cup of spinach, you're still getting a big amount of oxalates that can be harmful for you, can deposit in your joints, your thyroid, endocrine disruption, definitely contribute to kidney stones with any significant amount of spinach. What else is high in oxalates? Almonds, rhubarb, spinach, turmeric powder, dark chocolate can be. I know I'm breaking hearts. Pomegranate juice over here. It's kind of cool. I might buy this. It's in plastic, which isn't ideal, and it's not organic, but I really like pomegranate juice. So I might consider this at Sam's Club. Not a bad option. Because I want to get carbohydrates in my diet, I feel like I function better from an athletic perspective when I got carbohydrates. I'm going to show you how I get carbohydrates with only a limited amount of organic fruit here. Let's go get some honey and maple syrup. We're going to skip all the bread. Wait. We won't skip the bread. What about sourdough bread? I don't even know if they have sourdough bread here. Sourdough bread is better than regular bread. When you ferment the wheat, it's going to decrease the gluten somewhat. It's probably going to decrease the phytic acid. Phytic acid is a big compound that chelates minerals. That can be problematic for humans. It kind of robs you of minerals. It's in things like oats and wheat. So if you ferment the bread, it's going to be somewhat better, but sourdough bread is still going to have gluten. It could still cause issues if you have gut issues. So look, if you're in Italy and you're eating a real artisan sourdough and it doesn't bother you, great. But most of the sourdough I see in the States, I'm not a fan of. It's better than regular bread, but I skip it. None of these apples are organic, unfortunately. Apples, pears, it's another type of fruit that I would avoid unless it's organic. A lot of pesticides in those. You can look it up on the Environmental Working Group. They change their list every year. It's called the Dirty Dozen. Some people have questioned the accuracy of this, but I feel like it's a good indicator of which fruits and vegetables are the worst when it comes to pesticides. Those are the ones you'd want to avoid the most when it comes to conventional versus organic. I want to show you this. We're walking by the potato salad. This is why you got to read labels. I haven't even read this label, but I have a guess here. It says no artificial flavors or high fructose corn syrup, but right there, second ingredient here is soybean oil in potato salad. So again, something to read the labels carefully and avoid that because it's a seed oil. I feel like the seed oils are probably the single greatest contributor to chronic illness in humans for a lot of reasons. They end up in our mitochondria, in a phospholipid called cardiolipin. They're problematic in our cell membranes, causing instability. Corn, canola, sunflower, safflower, soybean, peanut, grapeseed. Avoid the seed oils, read the labels. Passing by the oats, it's so high in phytic acid. Again, the chemical that's going to chelate minerals and rob you of minerals. Even though oats contain some zinc, we know that the phytic acid in the oats is going to prevent you from absorbing that zinc. And it's going to prevent you from absorbing some of the zinc in any of the other foods you're eating. So I'm skipping the oats. I think that's a horrible breakfast. In fact, there's a study that shows in adolescent girls who are overweight that eating a beef and egg-rich protein breakfast was much better from a satiety perspective, less hunger, led to less snacking and easier weight loss, and changed their neurochemistry compared to a cereal-based breakfast like pancakes or oatmeal. So there's evidence that beef and eggs for breakfast, way better than Kodiak power cakes or pancakes or oatmeal. That stuff is just, that's subpar. On the carbohydrate front, I can get some organic maple syrup. When I'm looking at maple syrup, I just want to make sure there's no caramel color added. It's just pure maple syrup. You'll see caramel color added to things like sodas, and in animal studies, caramel color is associated with all sorts of problems. I believe increased certain cancers, so you don't want to eat things with hidden caramel color in them. They've got some honey here too. Again, I like having carbohydrates in my diet. I feel like it improves my sleep, helps me recover better from workouts, improves strength during workouts. They don't have any organic honey, but they've got a local, raw and unfiltered Texas honey, so pretty good. If you're curious about my macros, or you want to know how much carbohydrates, protein, and fat I might recommend, you can check out my website, paulsaladinomd.co. There's a free calculator there based on your weight, how active you are, that'll give you a sense of what I do in terms of my macros, carbohydrates, protein, and fat breakdown, and it'll help you kind of translate this into what you might actually put on your plate. Nothing's perfect, but pretty darn good. Even in a place like this, a big box store, Costco, Sam's Club, BJ's, you can affordably eat an animal-based diet. You can avoid a majority of the pitfalls in mainstream diets. And I think an animal-based diet, organs, meat, fruit, honey, raw dairy, these are the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet. They're really gonna help humans thrive. And I've seen so many people get better from all kinds of chronic illness when they cut out things like seed oils, high fructose corn syrup, carrageenan, grains. A lot of people even get better when they cut out vegetables. If you're thriving, you don't have any gut issues or autoimmune issues, you can probably eat some vegetables, especially cooked vegetables. I choose not to eat them because I feel better without them. That's kind of the idea behind an animal-based diet. What are the most nutrient-rich foods that you can eat while also getting the least amount of toxins in your diet? I'm gonna go look and see if there's any frozen fruit, because we didn't get much fresh fruit. If you find this video helpful, please like, subscribe, share with one of your friends, and stay tuned for more of this content.